gentlemen, happy Earth Day. I'm quite partial to the earth, as I hope most people are. And these projects were just very beautiful to me, and I'm glad I watched them at the same time. Beginning with you, Mike, a documentary is quite an undertaking that could take years for most filmmakers, but you had the forethought to start looking at what was happening to the earth and the animals. Did it come to you sort of like an epiphany, or how did the shaping of this come so quickly, since it was such unprecedented times for all of us?
Well, actually, it's a good question. Slightly weirdly, it was really discussing with the person who commissioned this, the fact that there's this weird soundtrack out there. You know, we've been used to this sound of humanity, sound of engines and cars, and there's what's this strange noise? Hold on a minute. I can hear something else. I can hear birdsong. And everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about this new soundtrack to their lives. And also, of course, the news outlets were starting to put in little clips of strange animals coming out of the woodwork and appearing in all sorts of strange places. And so in that conversation, we said, what's really happening here? What do the experts think? What, is nature staging a comeback? Well, if it is, we need to start filming now. So all power to Apple, they said, make it. And so we were straight out of the blocks before anybody else, really. And luckily, because I work for the BBC Natural History Unit, we have this huge network of contacts all over the world from having done this for 60 odd years. We were able to send out the message to, go and look. And everybody was sending us back stories, and you just start to work out which ones you can actually film and which ones would fit a bigger story. And that was it. And as you say, normally it takes us 4 years to make one of these big natural history documentaries. We did it in 9 months, which was, it wasn't, I can't say it wasn't stressful, but to do it.
Did they expect them all to be made in 9 months now?
That's the worry. No. No, luckily I'm doing 2 at the moment, which are going to take at least another 3 years to make. So.
Oh, wow. I wish I had that skill set, that I got that group text. Like, can you go out and film some animals? I would have loved that. I would have loved to receive that text. And just like that, with you, Oliver, with your film, it was so beautiful in the simplicity of the characters and how they're drawn and what they're communicating, this love for the earth. And we don't have to go beyond our own planet to see the beauty and what's interesting and how this was communicated within this family. Why did you choose animation as your art form, given that you're so adept at so many types of art forms? Why did you want to choose that lane this time?
Well, because I think there's a degree of separation with simple drawings, as opposed to whenever you start to having to cast real people in such a small fantastical, very, very brief narrative. There would have been too many questions that needed to answer. Whereas if we just keep it close to the book, because whenever the book was made, it was just very simply drawn in the way that I draw, and it. From the very beginning conversations with Apple TV Plus and with Studio AK, it was just like, yeah, let's keep this as close to the book as we can, even though there's no story in the book. It's about these simple observations. We weaved a small narrative through that about this one family, and I think whenever with very simple illustration, with very simple animation, it's vague enough that it kind of could be anyone, anywhere, without being specific and saying this is the exact sort of person or this is the exact location. And there's a freedom that allows anybody and everybody in.
With both I've just loved them so much. It made me think of a book I had when I was little by Simon and Schuster called The Book of Questions. And my parents gave me that book. I was very, very young, and I read it over and over and over. And I felt like both of your projects kind of married those two concepts of what are the animals doing right now while we're all indoors, and how are people communicating to their children the beauty of the planet and earth and how we can live in harmony with it. Back to you, Oliver, with communicating the beauty of earth to children, do you anticipate children taking more interest now that they've been forced indoors, more time to study, and kind of fostering this greater appreciation of the earth and what we've missed and what's gotten better?
I want to flip that question, because I don't think children have never not had an interest in the natural world. I think it's parents that are remembering how to be interested in the
Mm.
natural world. This is something that Mike and I were discussing earlier. It's like this reconnection with the natural world, and we've likened David Attenborough's sort of his grasp and his deep rootedness with the natural world as a childlike wonder. And in the same way, making art is all children are artists, as Picasso once said. The trick is just to remember how to remain one as we grow older. So it is. It's my father's he's been a lifelong educator, and he always said the surest sign of intelligence in another person is curiosity and imagination, and that's both of those things are inherent in what Mike's film is about and what my film is about. And so I think children have always, you try to walk down any city block with a 3-year-old, they're going to stop and look at the weeds growing up between the cracks that you just would never even think, that's not wasting your time. But when you get down and look with them, you're like, wait a minute, these are things that you don't think about. And so I think it's that curiosity and that sense of connectedness is there with children, but it's often as adults, we just got too busy to notice it. And so that noise that's being turned down on Earth so that we could hear the bird song might also be the same noise that's being turned down inside our own heads, in adults' heads, that we can remember some of those childlike questions.
I mean, I think both these films are quite observed, and I think what you were talking about questions, I think there's this wonderful and rather undervalued positive circle about you ask questions and you observe, or you observe and you ask questions. And I think that's something that is such an important skill. It's something we all have, but it's something that we sometimes maybe don't have time to do. And I think one of the interesting things about this strange period we've had in the last year, many challenges, of course, but it has allowed us time to observe, to question, to think a little bit about our relationships with each other, but also I think about the natural world. And quite a lot of people have said how they have found that rediscovery of a relationship with the natural world a real comfort to compensate for some of the other issues that the lockdown has created in their own lives and in their own inside their own heads. So, and I think we try to reflect that a little bit in the film. I mean, David Attenborough has certainly mentions it in the narration.
I couldn't agree more. I've taken up gardening during the pandemic, and it's given me a whole nother layer of appreciation for the great Mother Earth. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. These are some wonderful, beautiful projects, and I would have loved seeing this as a school child and even as an adult. Thank you so much for your time.